everyone, and welcome to Learning Kitchen Live. My name is Valerie. I'm the manager of nutrition services here at Community Servings, and I'm so excited to be back today doing this. We have a really fun recipe today. Before I start, a few housekeeping items. I just want to thank our sponsors, Boston Scientific, as always, for their support of Learning Kitchen Live. And after today's show, we will post the links to a survey in the message or in the chat section, and I would love it if you would take 5 minutes, not even 2 minutes, to complete the survey so we could learn more about what you're interested in learning about and how we're doing. And the recipe will also be posted there afterwards as well. And today's recipe actually came from one of you, from one of our viewers, someone who's been a longtime participant in our programs here at Community Servings, reached out and said, I would love it if you showed us how to do aquafaba or make things with aquafaba. So that is what we're doing today, and it's super fun. For those of you who don't know what it is, I think you're in for a treat. Aquafaba is the leftover liquid when you drain a can of chickpeas. I think it's technically the leftover liquid from any can of beans. It's most often referred to as the leftover liquid from chickpeas. And if you didn't know this stuff in this can, besides the beans, is kind of like magical liquid gold. It does all sorts of fun things, and it ends up becoming a vegan substitute for egg whites. Who knew, right? So it's the kind of thing that you probably have on hand, you probably rinse down the drain, and now I'm here to tell you that you can do some fun things with it if you're interested. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to make aquafaba meringues, and I'm going to talk about some other ways you can use aquafaba as well. But we're going to do meringues, which are a pretty basic application, and I thought it would be fun around the holidays because you can make them into cookies and all sorts of fun desserts. So what you do is you start with a can of chickpeas and you drain the liquid. I didn't have this one opened, but you drain the liquid and save the chickpeas and use the liquid, and that's about it. Before you do that, you want to give the can a really good shake because a lot of stuff settles to the bottom, and the stuff that settles to the bottom is part of what makes the aquafaba perform really well. So you want to give it a good shake, get all that starch mixed up, and then drain the chickpeas. These are my leftover chickpeas from that. And over the course of Learning Kitchen Live, we've done a lot of recipes with chickpeas. I know I made a smashed chickpea salad. We've made some stews and chilies with chickpeas. I don't know if we've done a hummus or not, but there are plenty of ways we have done. One of my colleagues is nodding in the background. We have in fact done hummus. There are so many ways to use chickpeas, so these will not go to waste. And now you don't have to waste the liquid if you don't want to. Another thing that you can do is if you drain the chickpeas but you're not ready to do anything with the liquid right then and there, it freezes beautifully. So you can just freeze that and then defrost it, and it performs just as well. You don't just bring it to room temperature and you'll be good to go. So the thing that's a magical property about the liquid that comes out of a can of beans is that it has the ability to whip up and trap air and make a foam. So that's what makes it behave very much like egg whites. And that means that you can do things with it like you would do with egg whites, but it's vegan, meaning there's no animal product in it. And it's also just a nice way to use up part of a food that you would otherwise rinse down the drain. So with that, we're going to get started. I'm going to show you first a couple of steps. What you would do is put your chickpea liquid in a bowl. It comes out to like about a cup, maybe just a little shy of a cup. For this recipe, you don't have to be really specific about the amount. But what you're going to do is add a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And this is like, I feel like one of those spices that everybody has. It's not even a spice, it's a thing everybody has in their spice cabinet that you've maybe used once. It's really commonly used in the cookies snickerdoodles, which is frankly why I had it, because those are a family favorite of mine. But cream of tartar is acidic, despite its name. Cream doesn't make you think acidic, but it's an acidic powder that helps stabilize foams. There's some science, fun science behind this about the way it reacts with the proteins in foams, but it helps stabilize a foam. Usually if you're making a regular meringue with egg whites, you would also add cream of tartar. So what that means is that when you whip this up, it's not going to deflate too easily. It's going to hold its shape, and when you bake your meringues, they're going to hold their shape better in the oven. You can do it without cream of tartar, it works, but you have to work a little faster, and there's a bigger risk that they're going to deflate like completely when they bake. So that's why we're using it. This stuff, I've probably had this jar of cream of tartar for like 5+ years. It lasts for a long time. So buy it once, you'll have it forever. You can make tons of meringues with it. So you put the chickpea liquid and the cream of tartar in a bowl, and you start whipping it. You have to add some things to this to make it taste like a cookie. The most obvious ingredient being sugar. So what you want to do is start whipping until you get the mixture looking kind of foamy, almost like dish soap. So this is kind of stage one. This is the liquid and the cream of tartar whipped for like, I think about 3 minutes, and you get this nice little foam, and it's at this point that you would add the sugar to it. What you want to do, I'm just going to give you a little example. I did a lot of this ahead of time because I didn't want to be yelling over the mixer, to be honest with you. It's pretty loud, so that's why I'm not doing all this in real time. But for this recipe, you add about 1.5 cups of sugar, and the sugar definitely adds sweetness, but it also helps mask any like beanie taste. So that's like a question that a lot of people have, is this going to taste like whipped chickpea cookies, which does not sound tasty. But the answer is no. If you flavor it right with the sugar and some extra, add this, is while you're mixing, just slowly sprinkle the sugar in. So I'm just going to show you an example. About a tablespoon at a time. And then you would keep whipping this. You would add the whole 3/4 cup, and you would keep whipping this for about 5 more minutes. I will tell you, this is a lot easier on your arms if you have a stand mixer. We didn't have one here that I could access, so I'm using just a hand mixer, which is fine. But once you whip it for about 5 more minutes, you're gonna see it turns this beautiful glossy white, and it gets what are called stiff peaks. So that's when, if you dip your, oh, now it's not gonna work. If you dip this in and pull it up, your beaters in, the peaks are gonna hold their shape. That's called stiff peaks. You usually want that with egg whites. When you're making whipped cream, you're looking for that. That's what you want with your Aquafaba mixture as well. That just means that it's nice and firm and has a good amount of air in it. The thing that's kind of nice about this is if you've ever played around with egg whites and whipping them and making meringues, you know you can go a step too far. Like, you could beat those egg whites and they'll be perfect, and then 30 seconds later they're gonna like start looking crumbly and collapse. You can't do that with Aquafaba. It's not as fragile as egg whites. So that's kind of a little fun fact, and if you're a beginner cook, you're not gonna ruin this. So here comes the really fun part, is flavoring this and making it whatever you want it to be. I am going to do 2 different kinds here because it's fun and it's the holidays. So one kind I'm going to do is peppermint with mini chocolate chips, and then the other kind is actually going to be a strawberry vanilla meringue that you can make. And you could customize this endlessly. You can make them plain vanilla. You can add any extract in that you'd like. I actually think almond extract would be really yummy in it. You could do orange with chocolate chips if you wanted. You could do literally anything. So I'm going to take what I have here and put about half of it in a separate bowl. And I am going to add a peppermint extract, and I'm going to add about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of peppermint extract. This stuff is strong. You do not want to go overboard with it. I'm just going to give that a quick mix. You could do this with the beater too if you were doing the whole batch. I am going to stir in, just for fun, a few drops of red food coloring. People have very strong opinions about adding food coloring to their food. I think it makes it look kind of festive and holiday-like. And I'm not going to stir it too much because I want it to look a little like almost like candy cane stripey. And then I'm going to add some mini chocolate chips. Alternately, you could bake off the meringues and then drizzle them or dip them in melted chocolate too, which would be super delicious. All right, so that's batch one. These are going to be like peppermint striped chocolate chip meringues. The second one I'm going to do is strawberry vanilla. So I'm going to add to this a little bit of vanilla extract. In this case, a half a teaspoon. Oops. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could take a vanilla bean and scrape the seeds out, mix it in with the sugar before you add it, and then whip all that up. It would give it a really, really strong, nice vanilla flavor. So I'm just going to add that in. And then what I'm going to add here are actually crushed dehydrated strawberries. These are a thing. You can buy them at Target, Walmart, the grocery store. They're delicious. They're like they're freeze-dried strawberries, really. So this is what they look like. You can find all sorts of fruits like mangoes, raspberries. They do apples. I think actually mango or raspberry would be really yummy. But all I did was pulverize some of these, and I'm gonna add it in. And mix that up. It's gonna give it a nice pink flavor. I forgot my spice grinder, so these have a little bit of chunks in it, which I think is okay, but if you pulverize those in a spice grinder, it would be almost like a powder. All right, so then what do you do with this? There's a couple of ways that you can make these meringues. You want a sheet pan or a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. This is, I think, really important. These are gonna stick to anything else. You could even spray this with a little nonstick cooking spray or baking spray if you wanted. So two ways to do it. One would be to pipe them. So I can show you that. I am not graceful at this, I will be honest with you, but I'm gonna show you. These are just disposable piping bags. I bought them in the grocery store. You can actually just use a zip top bag, a food storage bag, put it in and cut the corner off similarly. So you don't have to use anything fancy for this. I happen to have these, so I'm gonna use them. See what I mean? I am not graceful at this. So you put a bunch in, you make a little bit of a mess. All you need to do is snip the bottom off. And then pipe them into whatever shape you'd like. I'm just going to make little rounds. And that's it. This is so super easy. Now, if you don't want to be bothered with this piping stuff, which I get it, it can seem a little intimidating. It's just going to be a fun little blobby shape. If you don't want to do that, you don't really have to be too precious with this. What works just as well is take a tablespoon measure and just dollop it on the sheet. They come out looking just fine. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could use a piping bag with like special piping tips and make like star shapes. You can really like do anything you want with this. You want to space them about an inch apart on your baking sheet. They're not going to really spread. And then the key with these, or really with any meringue, is that they go in a really low temperature oven for a really long time. These are gonna go in a 250-degree oven for at least an hour and a half, maybe a little more. You're gonna know they're done because they're gonna get a little bit browned and they're gonna feel dry. So I'm gonna show you the final product because we didn't have an hour and a half to wait for cookies to bake today. So I baked these off earlier, and what we have here, these are the peppermint chocolate chip ones that I made. I overmixed them a little so they're more pink than striped. But what you can see is, I don't know if you can hear that, but they're hard. So they're gonna come out of the oven and be like crunchy. These I piped, and actually these I dolloped. They're plain with chocolate chips in them. And you can see, even though I just took a tablespoon and dolloped them on, they came out really nice. And again, crunchy. These things like melt in your mouth. They're like eating a puff of a cloud. They're so delicious. They're super low calorie. These are low in sugar, low in carbs. They're kind of a great all-around fancy cookie. If you wanted to get extra fancy, you could even like make a filling or put some melted chocolate and make like little sandwiches out of them. They're kind of fun. You can't mess these up. These would be a great thing to do with kids because they're just easy. The Aquafaba is so forgiving and easy to work with. So I hope I have convinced all of you to not rinse your the liquid from your cans of beans down the drain anymore, to save it. Remember, you can freeze it, and to have some fun with it. You can make cookies, you can make a giant meringue, and once it's baked and cooled, fill it with fruit, and that's called a pavlova, and you could eat that for a wonderful dessert. You can also use this really as a vegan egg substitute and like mix it into muffins, for example, instead of using eggs. You can make souffles out of it. You can do all sorts of things with it. It's just kind of a fun freebie food that you have in your house. You really just need a little bit of time, a mixer of some kind, and maybe some ingredients to spice it up a little. So anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed this. Thank you again to our friends at Boston Scientific for supporting Learning Kitchen Live. Please remember to take our survey, and the recipe will be posted later today. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.